Hey Oregon fans, this is Kurt here, co-owner of FishDuck.com. Welcome to yet another FishDuck one-on-one podcast. This week we're speaking with Jeromy King from the sportsbrewery.com. It is a unabashedly, no-holds-barred sports website that's based in Eugene, Oregon. It's a sports brewery, so of course I broke out my Oregon beer, which I keep in reserve here being in Los Angeles. And we're going to talk to Jeromy about some Oregon sports. So Jeromy, how you doing?
Doing good. Yourself?
Oh, fantastic. Sports brewery, it combines two of my favorite things in the world, beer and sports. Simple enough. But there's a certain approach to it, a certain style that I love because there's a lot of humor. And like I said, there's definitely no holds barred. If you're of the PC type, it's probably not for you.
Probably not. See, it started off as kind of a joke in a way because when you get older, people graduate, people move away, people get married, whatever. And one of my buddies started a in-home nursing care in Portland, and his web designer they hit it off, and he goes, "Hey, I'll make you guys a website, because you're a cool guy." And since people live in Seattle, people live in Portland, he's like, "Oh, let's do a blog." And basically, we pretty much just, instead of texting each other, we just threw something up on a website, and then, we just kind of laugh at each other that way. So that's pretty much how it started. It's not really deviated much from that plan.
There's a lot of interesting things that are going to be going on with spring football. A lot of eyes are going to be on the quarterback battle, on the running back position now that Trey Carson has transferred out, the wide receivers and all the red shirts from last year. But what are you paying attention to for spring ball this year?
I'm scared of the running backs. I think the quarterbacks will take care of themselves because as soon as Kelly got here, from Dixon to Masoli to Thomas, even Justin Roper did well. As long as they stay healthy, I think that's going to be fine. But with the running backs, you got Barner, DeAnthony, but do you really want him taking carries? They could be one injury away from not being bad, but not where we've seen them. But the receivers intrigue me because if there's one little quibble offensively I've had, which in this area you're nitpicking when you do that, is that they don't have the receivers to stretch vertically. Mm-hmm. So they kind of play the game. The defenses, in theory, can play it 15 yards and in. You know what I mean? No, they have a lot of the running backs have the speed to bust that 15 yards. But as much as I love Mayle, and I love Jeff Mayle, wasn't a track star. 2-A was kind of plodding. Huff had the injury issues last year, so it was a little, it'll be interesting to see guys like Blackman and Sumler and B.J. Kelly and even Rashawn Vaughn in his second year, Colt Laierla, all guys that have legit track speed. Some of them even run track at the U of O, which not a bad place to run track. It'll be interesting to see if the field is expanded vertically, what that does for the running game. And, you know what I mean? Because if they like USC, they were, in theory, they're fast enough on defense, and if they know, and they're, not to sound arrogant, but they're the main competition this next year,
Yeah, that's pretty fair to say.
If they have to start worrying about getting beat behind them, that's just a whole different game. And it only takes once. And it doesn't even have to happen in that game, but if the game before they see Sumler sneak out for 80 yards, that's in the back of their head, and it just changes the whole game. So that's pretty intriguing. And from just a straight social media aspect, the quarterback battle, because if you already look on Twitter, someone says Team Brian Bennett, You got 3 people, Team Mariota, you know what I mean? It's going to be out of control, and I hope it's all in good fun. Quarterback, you never know. People get a little crazy.
Well, it'll be interesting because everyone was talking about this kid, Eric Armstead, that is of the SEC mold, the body type. And there was a lot of bitterness that I saw on Twitter from Auburn fans actually attacking Eric Armstead outright, saying some really vile things, keeping it classy, Auburn. I've never understood why people would reach out to recruits openly online. It's a dumb thing to do.
I noticed it with Auburn, and USC fans were coming after him hard. And when you just break it down and say, I'm on the internet harassing a 17-year-old boy because he's not coming to my favorite team, it's so stupid. It makes no sense. I just sit there and I try not to follow recruits in general because I just don't want to get sucked into the whole, we have a great economics. You know what I mean? It's not what I just don't want to get into that. But you still see the retweets of, you're a loser because you're going there. Can't handle the competition. I want to be, well, Auburn, we're kind of, no offense, Auburn fans, we're kind of a one-year wonder under old Genie there.
Yeah.
Your trajectory is not going up. I hate to break it to you. And Armstead's from, not down the road, but Northern California. Why wouldn't he come to Oregon?
You know, when it comes to athletics on the West Coast, show me a program that's been better than Oregon in the last couple of years. Why wouldn't he consider the Ducks?
And I would see people say that on Twitter and be like, it's the best program, in the Pac-10 or on the West Coast in general. And then you would get just because USC's on probation. If you look at message boards, and sometimes I get sucked into them and just to read because they're funny if you take them for what they are, or Twitter. And I like to have my fun on Twitter. I'll say something and like Chris Fetters, a dog man, will retweet it, and I'll just get 50 mentions like that. And they'll be like, one person will go, football wasn't invented until 1994. And that's kind of the standard line for Duck fans we get. But now the metric is moving. Just football wasn't invented until 2008. And you'll be like, what happened in 2000? What happened in 94?
Right.
They went to the Cotton Bowl the next year. That's not a bad deal. They were a top 10 team in 2000. They went to the Fiesta Bowl. Should have gone to the national title game in 2001. They were top 10 in 2008 as well. It's amazing to me that no matter, Oregon could win the national title this year, and the next response would be win 5.
There was a little bit of coaching change at Army, which makes now Oregon the only college football team in the entire country that has not had a single change in the primary coaching staff in the last 3 years. Coincidentally, the last 3 years, Oregon is the only team that's played in a BCS game every single year. So maybe there's something more than just Phil Knight and uniforms and facilities. Maybe it has something to do with the people dialing up the X's and O's too.
Yeah, it amazes me that if you look at the guys that are here, like Gary Campbell or Greatwood or Aliotti did, go to the NFL and UCLA, but a guy like Campbell, he's been a running backs coach at the University of Oregon for 30 years now.
Decades.
Would you, if he would have left in 1995, and would you be surprised if he became an offensive coordinator? You know what I mean? Just somewhere in a high level program. It wouldn't surprise me. So there's something here, and there's been something here for pre-Chip Kelly, pre-Bellotti even, something that started at the end of the Rich Brooks era that's keeping these guys here. And that's, I don't know what, winning helps,
Yeah.
But other programs that win, look at Washington right now. So they brought in Wilcox from Tennessee. So in the last 5 years, he's been at Cal, Boise, Tennessee. Now he's at UW. And even the most ardent Husky honk, when you give him a little bit of truth serum, go, if he does well, he's a head coach in 2 years. Mm-hmm. And Washington is one of those programs that you would think, you would think would be able to keep these guys like Oregon does. Mm-hmm. But no one else does. Steve Sarkisian, a USC, keys to the castle type deal, goes up to UW. It's amazing the stability that they've had. And for all the people that'll say Oregon's super fast program, everything's flashy, everything's sexy, superficial, but the core doesn't change.
Yeah.
Ever. When Pflugrad was let go, that was, people went catatonic because we lost a coach. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. Oregon right now, we have probably 3 or 4 guys on our coaching staff who could very well be head coaches at other schools.
Definitely. I mean, Scott Frost is, he's the sexy guy, and Helfrich, I mean, why is he, I'm glad he's staying here, and I hope he does, but, I mean, that just shows what he's got here, because he could go. He could be gone if he wanted to.
Steve Greatwood at the same time.
Steve Greatwood,
He was named assistant coach of the year. Don Pelham was named national recruiter of the year. I mean, the coaching talent is what Oregon's coaching staff does that I find so fascinating is that while the facilities and all the Nike assistance is great for improving overall recruiting, Oregon, as good as any team in the country, takes decent athletes and through coaching molds them into great athletes.
Yeah, because of the extra stuff, people just gloss over that. And looking at state, Mike Riley's the guy that does less with more. That's kind of the mantra with him.
Because he's given so little.
Given nothing, yeah.
But I'm not sure if people have really looked around and realized how good Oregon athletics is right now as a whole on a national scale. Oregon is prominent in so many sports. The basketball team won the CBI last year. They're in the NIT. Track, women's indoor track, are now three-peat national champions. Acrobatics and tumbling team is defending national champions. Women's golf right now, Casey Isagawa, the freshman, is dominating. She's probably going to be on the LPGA Tour pretty soon. Men's tennis is playing dominant. Men's baseball, only a couple of years being back now, is as hot as any team in the country. Volleyball were in the NCAA tournament. They beat the number 1 team in the country to open the season last year. Women's soccer should be great. I mean, every sport across the board. We've never seen anything like this before in Eugene, not that I can think of, where the entire program was elevated to a national powerhouse in almost every single sport across the board.
Yeah, it's heady stuff right now, because I mean, if you just think about it, you go, which teams are going to be very good at every sport? Texas, Florida schools, UCLA, Stanford, those. And that's generally the case. Mm-hmm. So the fact that Oregon is really good at almost everything is it's staggering to me, because I would say even 5-6 years ago, during the very first Elite Eight run even, I would have said Oregon's a school just because of the recruiting base and the weather that needs to pick one big sport to be good at, and then maybe one of the Olympic sports, whether it's football and basketball, whatever one, and then we didn't have baseball at the time, you know what I mean? Pick baseball to be good at. But the fact that they're good at everything, it blows my mind.
It's so interesting from the fan perspective, because you and I both growing up watching Oregon sports, there was a time where we were just happy to show. If the team was just competitive. There were so many times, especially in the 90s or so, playing Washington, and we knew damn well that Washington eventually was just going to, casually walk all over us. But if the team just fought hard, that was good enough.
I don't know how many times I went to the pit, and sure, we lost, but we gave Lute Olson a tough time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just how it was. And the fact that they can now look at those programs straight in the eye across the board and go after them, it's foreign to me still.
Well, Oregon fans need to wake up, because we're living in an unprecedented era in Eugene. If you love the Ducks, you really need to be paying attention, because yes, it's a couple months away until we get football outside of the little oasis that is spring football, but all the spring sports right now are really, really good.
Pay attention, folks. Pay attention.
Well, and you can find out about Oregon sports, as well as Blazers and Eugene Emeralds, and just some general internet trolling at its finest on thesportsbrewery.com.